Hello Otters, how are you? Kano here. I know I say this in every single haul video, but I can't believe May is already coming to a close. It's just insane that it's June, at the end of this week. Anyway, so it is time for the May art haul, and this month I've bought more stationery stuff than art supplies like paints and stuff, but I'm going to show you everything that I bought this month for my art. The first thing I bought is this massive folder. This is a A3 folder. Normally it's A4, it's double that, and I really wanted this because I had all these sheets that I created for the Daniel Smith's Colour Showdown, and I wanted a nice way of being able to archive all the sheets. You might have seen this card in other videos I have. It's a Patreon reward for this month. You have till the 31st of May to sign up on to Patreon to receive this reward for $25 or more tiers. You can also get lots of other things with it. And I made this card at the start of the month, and so these are all really nicely dried, safe to travel. I'm really excited to send this card out to you guys. The Perylene Red and the Perylene Scarlet is very similar, and so if you want to know the difference between the two, I did a video last week covering all 5 colours, but in particular these 2 colours, and so I highly recommend you check that video out. I will link it down below and also of course up here as well. The next thing I bought was some masking tapes, and I've always used this cheap masking tape that I found on Amazon, and it consistently pulled up paper, and I got to a point I need to try something else. And Jackson's has these 2, and they're called Hanover masking tapes, and they have a lower tack than a standard, your normal cheap masking tape. So these are doing much better. They do still pull, fluff up the paper, and they do still tear the paper a little bit, but nowhere near as much as my old one did. So I'm really happy with these, and this is 1 inch and this is 3/4 of an inch, and they're both really good. I also bought this very thin, narrow 3mm width masking tape. What I use this tape for is to make color charts, and using this tape has allowed me to fill out color charts much faster. Before this masking tape, I used to just draw the grid and then start painting, but skip one so that you didn't get wet paint bleeding into more wet paint, and then have to come back and fill the gap. So you would have a checkerboard pattern going, and then you have to fill, which for me can get really confusing when you're doing color mixing charts. Whereas using this tape, I can just fill one square and then go on to the next one without worrying so much of me accidentally going off the line and bleeding through to the next box because there's 3mm guard that is on watch for you. So this has sped up my color chart process so much faster, and it's encouraged me to make more color charts as well. The only downside to this is they do have a tendency to peel quite easily. It's very low tack, and to be fair, it doesn't have much surface area to cling onto the paper, so it does peel off, and sometimes you do have to go back. If you're doing more layers, you have to go back when it's dry and just go over all the tape before you do the next layer. But other than that, it's been fantastic, and it peels off because it's so low tack beautifully. Next up is some Crema ready-made watercolor paints. This is a old palette of mine, and I repurposed it to keep handmade paints and also Crema paint. So here I've got Dan's watercolors that I showed you I think last month, as well as some of the first lot of Crema colors I got from them. They were really beautiful, so I wanted to try some more in colors that I don't normally go for. So I got Crema's Gold Ochre Light, Crema's Incarnate 2 and Crema's Caput Mortuum. And you can see here, they are really nice colors. The Gold Ochre Light has a real nice warmth and depth to the color. The Incarnate 2 is a really lovely, soft, gentle color. Not sure what I would use it for because I tend to paint with bright colors, but it is so delicate. The Caput Mortuum, my favorite Caput Mortuum is the Senneliers. That is just such a gorgeous color. And I think Crema's it's not as creamy as the Senneliers one, but it does have the same kind of intense high tinting strength. And as with all Crema colors, all three re-wet superbly. I do still have 4 slots, and so maybe next month I will get some more to fill up here as well. I don't know if you saw on Twitter, but in the middle of the month, Jackson decided to do, I think it was 15% or 20% off all brushes. If you want to stay up to date with Jackson sales, I do tend to tweet about them when there's a good deal. So if you want to follow me on Twitter on @Kano_art, then I will keep you updated with good deals from both Jackson's and also when Cass does their crazy amazing sales as well. Of course, with the brush sale, I did have to buy some more Escoda Ultimo brushes, and this time I went for the bigger ones. Last month I bought the size 8 and 10, and I really enjoyed them, but I felt that they were great for doing mini paintings, but for me, if and when I want to scale up, I need bigger brushes. I didn't buy the biggest brush, which I do like to do because I really like big brushes. The biggest brush they have is a size 22, but I thought I'll go for size 20 for now. It's just so soft. I think I've just sat here, done this, and played with these brushes more than I've painted with them. But they are so soft. They absorb so much water, and paint, of course. And so I am looking forward to painting larger abstract pieces with these brushes. So I've got the size 20, the size 18, the 16, 14, and the 12. They are so affordable, especially when it was on sale. But even when it's not on sale, these are much cheaper than the Pro Art Pro Line Plus that I use. And so very affordable. If you want lovely soft thirsty brush, then I highly recommend the Escoda Ultimo. A new thing that I started doing this month is to make my own watercolor paint. So I'm still a beginner at this, and so please don't take this as gospel of the things you need to be able to start making watercolor paints for yourself. I'm just like such a newbie at this. However, if you go over to people like Eve's channel on Eve Bolt or Dan's channel on Penholder Art UK, they have really good, amazing knowledge of how to make watercolor paint. So I highly recommend you check those out, and I will of course link both of those channels down below. But I did buy myself a few bits and pieces to get me started. The first thing you're going to need are pigments and the watercolor binders, and I have tried 2 binders now. Now these are like ready-made, ready to go, ready to use as is binder mixes. You can make your own binder blends, but that just sounded like way too much for me to pick up as a beginner paint maker. So I went for these ready-made ones. The ones I tried were Crema's own watercolor binder, and the other one was Schmincke's watercolor binder. Both ready to use, really handy. They both have their good and bad. Crema paints are wonderful for their re-wettability, and this binder has that honey that keeps the paint more moist and therefore easier to re-wet. The Schmincke's one doesn't have honey, but what it does have is oxgall, and oxgall helps paint move more and faster in water. So if you want a really lively paint, then you want to be using oxgall or ready-made binder that has ox gall in it. This one is a lot thicker than this one. This one's really watery. This ironically doesn't have honey. It feels more like honey. And me personally, I've preferred the Schmincke's one rather than the Crema one, and that's just a personal choice thing. I like my paints to set up in palettes rather than just stay wet forever. And the Crema one is a bit like how M. Graham's one never really dry. Same thing, they both have honey in it. And because I make lots of dot cards and I would love to be able to at least offer dot cards of some of the paints I make, from experience I've learned that honey based watercolors are just really not practical for making dot cards with. It will just stick to everything no matter what you put on top. For that reason, I'm going to avoid using a honey based binder and stick to something that doesn't have honey in it. The Schmincke one, because it doesn't have that honey, doesn't re-wet quite as well, but it still re-wets easily. So if you want like a really quick way of getting started in making your own watercolor, I highly recommend giving these ready-made watercolor binders a try. I've also bought a muller. This is a glass muller that you mull the paint with. Now this is the smallest one Crema does, and it was the first one I bought because I didn't know if I like doing it, and I didn't really know how small or big you need these things to be. And it was great for a couple of goes, but then because you're using your finger to hold on and move it, your fingers get tired a lot easier. And also it had this tendency of just jumping and falling over, and then you get paint all over your hand and on your muller. So I did go and buy a little bit bigger, like one size up from this. Now, I'm not going to show you that one because, and I will link it down below so you can check it out, but there's no two-way about it. It looks like an adult toy, but it's like about that big and the handle is a lot wider. Go and check the link out, honestly. If you start making watercolor paints and you go for the bigger, longer glass mullers, then you are just going to have to deal with families and friends laughing their head off that you have an adult toy on your table. That's all I'm saying. And then I just got some few measuring spoons and palette knives so that it makes the whole thing easier. I didn't buy a mulling plate. I already had a glass chopping board, so I'm just using that for now, and it's been working out great. The next things I bought this month were my first purchases at AliExpress. Thought I'd give it a go, see what was around, and I saw these two palettes and they looked pretty awesome. So really, really affordable, and they came really fast. Like, I heard a lot about how AliExpress takes like 40 days to get to you, and on the info sheet it said it's gonna take 40 days. So I thought, okay, yeah, whatever, it'll just come when it comes. It came like within a week. So I was really, really impressed with their delivery speed. So the first one is this one. It comes with an inner tray that you can just pop on here. And then you have 33 wells, and they're quite big wells. So you can put a lot of paint in there. Now, one thing that I didn't know when I've seen this kind of similar palettes online before is that this is actually just a tray. It's not like stuck down. I mean, you can stick it down, but you can also take it out and have more mixing space if you wanted. Or you could just get some blue tack and securely put this down. But it's a really good palette. 33 colors in a palette is pretty awesome. Now this is the monster palette. It is absolutely huge, and I've seen something very similar that Mijello sells. I couldn't find this palette being sold in the UK on its own, so it was awesome that like AliExpress had a dupe copy, and for $16 it's a really good value. This is supposed to have, I think, 53 wells. However, that number does include these odd little triangle wells. So it's actually, for me, because I don't think I would use these corners, it's 5 fewer than the stated number, but it's still gonna hold a huge number of colors for me. And so I am thinking that this might become my new studio palette. At the moment, I am using this as my studio palette. You can see the size difference, right? And it's great for having lots of the very specific colors that I use all the time, but I don't have any space. But I don't have any space to put the less standard colors like the Primatex and like the Parylene and other colors that I might want to occasionally use. But having said that, I'm not going to get rid of this palette because it is really handy to just have on the table all the time, and then maybe use this palette where I might want to play with lots of specialist or specialized colors. My plan for this palette is to have the standard colors that I have on my studio palette here, and then maybe have like a range of Primatex here. I don't have enough to fill all the wells, but it's good to make a start. And then have the non-Primatech other colors around here as well. When I have decided on exactly what I'm going to do with this palette and where each color is going to go, then I will probably do a live stream for you guys so you can watch me fill these wells with beautiful paints. So that's it for the art haul, and now we can move on to the much awaited Jazz update. An amazing month. She has become fully tame now. So now when we go into her room, she will run towards the cage door. We put a little shelf in front of the door, so she will just run onto the shelf, put her hand on the door and wait for us to open it, which is just the most adorable thing in the world. She has also started to like to kiss my nose, which is just so cute. If I put her on my hand and then raise her to my eye level, she likes to just give my nose a couple of kisses. And when it happened the first time, I just nearly died out of cuteness. We did have one day where she decided to wake up in the morning. So this is the footage of the daytime video you're seeing now. I don't usually like showing the night vision camera mode because I kind of feel like she looks like a little bit more evil with the glowing eyes, but I had to show you guys this footage. What happened was my cough has come back and I've been coughing throughout the night, so I suggested to my husband he would get better quality sleep if he slept in Jazz's room where there is a sofa bed and he can get comfortable, and it's like on completely opposite ends of the apartment from where I'm busy coughing. And so he did that for a couple of nights, and then in the middle of the night he woke up to her doing this. Seriously guys, she is literally running on top of the wheel. What's happening is there is a shelf to the right of that wheel. She's got her bottom onto that shelf and then busily running on top of the wheel. And you can see that her back leg, it's going as fast as the front, but it's not touching anything. And we've never seen her do it, but when he filmed it, she kept doing it. She'll do that, fall off the wheel, run to the other end of the cage to be able to run back onto the top of the wheel, and then start again. And she kept doing this. So just because we're a little bit worried that she might injure herself at some point, we have now put some guard on top of the wheel so she can't do that. But for the one time that we did see it, it was hilarious. So I thought I had to share that with you guys. I hope you enjoyed this video. I will link everything that I mentioned in this video down in the description below. Thank you for watching this video. Please share down in the comments below what wonderful art supplies you've bought this month, and I will see you in the next video. Bye!